You're listening to I Survived the Wild Outdoors podcast, where real outdoors men and women share their heroic tales of survival. I'm your host, Brad Mathewson, and this is their story. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Bill Pfendler of Alaska in upstate New York. Bill is the owner of WFP Log Construction, specializing in log cabins and rustic furniture. He spends a good part of his year working in Alaska and fishing for salmon. One Tuesday evening back on September 22nd, 2010, he was fishing for silver salmon on the Swanson River on the Kenai Peninsula, which is home to a very healthy bear population. After having success fishing, he was headed down a trail on the way back to his truck, and he encountered a very large brown bear. Bill, can you tell us what happened?
Well, a brief little prehistory. I did live in Alaska for like a total of 8 years, but there was like a section in between I wasn't up there. Well, so it was like the second time I went back. I was just kind of feeling it out a little bit. I just wasn't jumping right back into like working and stuff. It was kind of like almost like a little bit of a vacation and kind of like testing work and stuff. And there was like a couple of properties that I see that were for sale. And I wanted to check them out and then, think about building a cabin or a house over there down on the Kenai Peninsula. So anyways, had some friends that I met before up in the panhandle of Idaho, deer hunting, and they were buddies of mine. And then, talking about fishing and stuff like that in Alaska. And them guys are like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. And they were single and they liked to work and stuff. And it was pretty good money working up in Alaska. And they did commercial roofing. So them guys were up there, and they were already up there before I was that year. So that was in 2009. I do like a lot of log work and log railings and stuff, and I was pretty busy. And then I got, it was probably like the middle of July in 2009, and just before king salmon season was, and I really wanted to get a nice big king salmon. So I went up to Alaska and then had my little car that actually drove all the way across the country, like 6 days of driving.
Wow.
And yeah. So I got up there and I did get like a really big king, like a 50-pound, I think it was like 51 pounds I caught with my fly rod, and I killed that fish and kept it, and I taxidermied it myself. And I went and seen that property. I liked it. And then I only stayed in Alaska like a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks tops, and then I went back east and stuff, and they did more working and stuff. So like over the course of the winter, I purchased the property. It was just like a little over an acre or whatever. And so then the next year was 2010. I might have had plans to go back like earlier. A lot of the years, if I wasn't staying there, I would go back like the beginning or mid-May. And usually with the daylight up there turning over quicker by like middle of June, you get the longest day of the year, land of the midnight sun.
Yep.
So like in May, you go to get into May, even like Wisconsin and stuff, some places like the grass ain't really growing yet and the buds on the trees haven't come out, if you got like a long cold winter.
Yep.
So like up there it's like, wow, the leaves are completely out and the grass started growing, but it'd be like 48, 50, 52, like you're on Anchorage, and then you'd always have the weather the jet stream would come in off the ocean, so it'd be misty, rainy a lot, most of the June. Then you get like the latter part of the summer, it was nicer. So I kind of planned it that way, and I was pretty busy doing my work and didn't get back to Alaska. I owned the property and had plans of building a place. Didn't get there until I think it was like the later part of August. I think it was like mid-August. You had to get, didn't really, in that area, didn't need a building permit or anything. It wasn't in a big city. You had to have a driveway permit. And so I'm like, got things rolling, and it was pretty basic drawing that I did, and built like a 20 by 30 with like a loft in it. And I picked like the most level spot on the land, did some like hand digging and some sonotubes, and then did a basic framing and stuff, and I had like the whole shell up on my place, and no running water or no electricity. I did have a generator.
Okay.
And it was pretty cool. It was like up in the northern part of the Kenai Peninsula. You gotta go above Kenai. So like the Kenai River, that's like the world class like king salmon fishing. That's like where the world record comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of bears.
Yeah, there's some big bears. This area on the Kenai Peninsula, these are the same big brown bears that they have on the Alaska Peninsula, and the same as like Kodiak. That whole area, they're gigantic.
Yep.
You know, you got 1,000, 1,200 pounds, some even bigger than that, 1,400 and bigger. You know, even like in Alaska Peninsula, they talked about like a big sow could be like 1,000 or 1,200 pounds, and like they'll keep their cubs for 2 years, and the cub could be like 600-800 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like ginormous. So, anyways, going back to my building my place, I had the show up, and actually a friend of mine who was a retired state trooper with the BCI and everything, he had came out for like a week, and he had this, you know, I don't know, I get talking about Alaska, this and that. I always like grow other people's interest. So like, hey, come and visit and do this or do that. So he come up and wanted to do some fishing, and he helped me do some of the roof, I think. And then he flew back home, and then it was only like that week after that, maybe a week later, I guess. So like the most general moose season for like rifle was like, I believe it was like August 20th to September 20th. And in this area above where I lived, it was probably 10 miles, and you went to the end of the road, the Kenai Spur Highway.
Okay.
And yeah, there was a trout stream over there. Salmon and stuff came in there. It was a Swanson River. So I've been over there before a few times, and there was like a beaver dam, and there was quite a few salmon up in there. My friend that come visit me like a week prior, we went up there, and there was quite a bit of fish. And I don't think I went since then, since he left. It was like the first time back. So then it was the 21st. Moose season ended the 20th, and like in that area, they have seasons that go on later on October and this and that, draws and stuff like that. But anyways, like, okay, well, you know, kind of joking around. Well, I guess, you know, I ain't got to worry about hunters being in the woods. It's after moose season. I says, maybe I'll go up there fishing or something. And then I was working on a place. So that same day on the 21st, I knew the sawmill place that had like bigger wood chips. I got a load of that, and I went back to the place, and I was like shoving it around like where my peers were. And I'm like, man, it's like getting towards dinner time, kind of getting hungry. And it's like 20 miles back to Kenai, and like, well, I'm going to drive way back to town to get something to eat, or, you know, I could cook out like I have been, like in a little propane stove. I says, well, maybe I'll just run up quick to the stream up there and grab the salmon. I'm pretty good salmon fisherman, grown up by Lake Ontario all these years. But anyways, I says, okay, well, getting kind of late, sun's starting to go down. I says, well, I better hurry up and go over there. It was probably like 10 miles up to the end of the road. And you get up to that area, you get up on top of the hill, and it's a nice big paved road. Nobody hardly ever on that upper part there.
Now,
and there's a big...
Now, are you thinking about bears when you're going out and fishing these streams all the time? Are you carrying anything as far as bear spray or a weapon?
12 gauge pump.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I've been different times. Like the first few times I was in Alaska, and first years, like the very first year, I never carried anything. Like, you know, like you just figure like, well, I guess they would run away. You know, like you see bears from black bears and stuff. Like, just scared of people. You know what I mean? You know, you go to these areas and there's like thousands of guys around there fishing. Like, you know, it can't be that bad of a deal.
No.
But then, like, you know, you go and, you know, the one place I used to go was up by Russian River, and I would go way up above all the people, like 100 yards, I think, below the waterfalls. There was like a sign, and you could start fishing there. That was like the furthest upper place you could go. And I would spend the night up there because you had like 3-4 hours of like that twilight kind of time.
Yep.
Like the witching hour kind of light. And then I would see some giant bears walk. And you were like kind of stuck in there because it's like right in like a super steep mountainside. So it was like almost going like the edge of a roof to try to get out of there. You just stood there. And it was like living like a goat trail almost along the side of the stream. And then the river was like 3 feet deep, just like ripping right down through there. And those bears that walking around there like 5 feet on the shoulders, on all 4 legs, are big ones. But yeah, I was around bears and stuff like that. And then, the more you're into it, like you should start carrying a gun or whatever. And you always get the bear spray thing. And then, living in Alaska, I've been places, remote places, working and stuff, and the wind's blowing like 50 miles an hour. Like, you ain't gonna do nothing spraying at the bear in the wind.
You're just gonna spray yourself.
I've been there. Yourself and it's gonna bite you.
I've been there. It's horrible.
Yeah. So, anyways, so that day, I got up there, and on the road, to kind of describe the area, you had to go probably like, I think from the town, it was like 10 miles up. It was like maybe 10 miles from my house. But a dead end up there. There was like a Captain Cook Park, and then you went out. There was like a parking area up on top at the very end where people would like park their trailers and pick up trucks, and they would take their four-wheelers and they go way off in the bush. Or you went to the left right there. There was like a little camping area, like a campground, little bathroom facility, and there's like these bluff campsites overlooking the Cook Inlet on the ocean.
Yeah.
And those kind of nice, But just before then, coming on the south side, we're on top of the hill, and it was probably like a half a mile stretch right there, a nice straightaway. Went down in the bottom of the hill, and there was a bridge, and then went back up. And there was like one guy parked down there just off the side of the guardrail, and he was standing on the bridge fishing. I see you guys salmon fishing there. If you're on the bridge, you can look over to the left, and you can see the ocean out there like a few hundred yards. So they would have some tidal water there. But just before they're on top of the hill, you took a right-hand turn, you went back on the dirt road. I don't think it was a mile back in there. It was like it just seemed, you could just tell it looked like bear country. It was all heavy, dark timber in there. And there was big enough little dirt gravel parking lot. You could probably squeeze like 8-10 pickup trucks in there. And there was like an old, like outhouse bathroom place. And it was kind of almost like abandoned looking. I don't think I used it. But it was a dirt path. I don't think it was big enough that you could put a four-wheeler on it. It was probably like 2.5, 3 feet wide, a well-used path that people walked on.
Yep. And
it would take you about 15, 20 minutes walk, at a fast walk, to get up to this beaver dam that I like to go to. If you had to go any faster, you almost would be jogging.
Okay.
And I says, okay, well, I better get up there and go up there. And I had my pickup truck and parked over there and put my chest waders on, had my fly rod and 12-gauge pump, 870 Remington, Super Magnum.
Yep.
So anyways, I had it up through there, got to my spot, and it was kind of thick brush. There was like some willows and alders and stuff on the right-hand side. So just before the beaver dam, you would just cross the stream, and then on the left side, you get up above the dam. You could tell bears have been around there because it was like that swale grass kind of stuff, and It was like matted down. Of course, I fished over before and kind of walked around. So I was like, and then because I was fly fishing, you needed some room so it wasn't caught in the trees. So anyways, I caught one nice one, had a nice color to it, a male. It had like the nice spawning colors. It was a coho. They call them silvers. And then I took pictures of it and I threw it back. And then fished a little bit longer, and then I got a nice fresh female that was a chrome silver one.
Okay.
And I said, oh, this is a nice one. So I kept that one. It probably just come up from the ocean not too long because it was really chrome. So I kept that and I says, okay, I got to get out of here. It's getting late. And then I got across the back of the thing. I think probably either snapped the neck on the fish or the gills out. They kill it quickly, and then it was probably bleeding too. But so anyways, I get up there and I get on the trail, and I'm like 3/4 of the way back to my truck. And now you kind of describe the area to get the setting and the atmosphere of the situation where it happened. The river's on the right-hand side of me as I'm going back, and it's over probably like 100 yards or more. And then kind of a trout stream that's probably only like 15, 20 feet across. But the way it cut out the landscape, it's kind of like in a big, I wouldn't say a canyon, but it's a pretty good-sized valley. So it kind of makes like a big opening in the woods,
Yep.
Because most of the trees are down in. So looking out, it was kind of like grassland with well, not grassland. There's like popple trees, aspens, and then a few like spruce trees, but the spruce were like growing in the opening where the branches would be all needled out right to the almost to the ground, you know, and they were kind of spaced out.
Yep.
And you can kind of look through them, kind of fairly open, and then where that creek was, like they opened in the canyon, it made almost like a horizon, like, you know, like you would be silhouetted.
Yep.
Because that's what happened. I was walking through, and I was kind of going pretty fast, and I look over, and then silhouetted right on the edge of that bluff where the creek would be, there was this great big bear walking up through. And I was like, holy crap, I can't believe he didn't just see me. And he's just like walking through like he didn't even notice I was there. Not really exaggerating anything. It seemed like the grass was like 4 feet tall, and it looked like the bear was like 18 inches out of the grass.
Okay.
On all 4 legs walking up through. And then he got up. There was like some timber that was a little bit thicker. He went out of sight. There must be, there was like a breeze or something, a little bit. The wind direction probably was going to where he just intercepted my set. Because then all of a sudden it was like a light switch. I could hear him just going, oh. He was just like doing that really aggressive, like,
yep.
He was pissed off. And then I could hear branches. He was like motoring right out towards me. I was like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And so I like dropped the fish in the fishing pole, and then I had my shotgun. And it's like he's coming through, and then, you know, he might hesitate a little bit making some noise, but they're so vocal. Their lungs are so big, and then like even like being up close to them, that sound will vibrate. So it goes right through you. But anyways, I could hear him coming, so I yelled a few times to like to try to scare him off or whatever, because he already knows I'm there. So I'm trying to make some sound and noise and stuff, like, you know, whatever you could do, because I didn't want to shoot him or nothing. So it was like the last resort kind of thing. And that doesn't stop me. He comes around right out past us to the right of the spruce tree, and he had his head down. I remember looking at the little beady eyes he had, and the shape of his nose, everything. He looked right at me, and he just started to jot out at me, and I had my gun up then. And so I put the bead right on his head, like right above his eyes, and I pulled the trigger, and I thought for sure he was just going to fold up right there and roll over. And it didn't mean nothing to him. He just like, it was like 2-3 jumps, and he was right at me. I didn't even have enough time to pump the shotgun.
Holy shit.
And yeah, I freaking, it just like boom. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, you're like, I wasn't like in shock where I can't move or anything. It was just so damn quick. He was like right there, and he hit me so hard like a football player. Well, probably a lot more than that. The shotgun went flying out of my hand, and he hit me so hard. I think he just come and probably just, you know, I don't even remember like seeing him like 4 feet away or anything. All of a sudden he was there, and boom, all I can remember is I got knocked back, and the air knocked right on my lungs. The gun went flying. I probably got knocked back like 10, 15 feet from where I was standing. So I'm like on the ground. The next thing, I can hear him coming, and I don't know where this gun's at. And then, you know, it's pretty good. It's a good shock. You know, you're trying to get get your footing and figure out what you're doing, you know. And then next thing you know, he's over on top of me, and he's pissed off, and he's, you know, it isn't like a growling. He's going through, you know, have you seen videos of bears running off other bears, you know, that the vocalization of them, and then just, like, you know, get out of my area kind of thing.
Yep.
He was doing that, and then, you know, I just like closed my eyes as tight as I could, and then like tried to cover my head. And he was like trying to bite it. I had like a baseball cap, like a camouflage one with like polarized fishing glasses. They had like a blue tint to them, reflective like blue. But anyways, I had that, and he was like biting on my head, but it was like slipping because my hat was there. So then I was covering up my arms. I remember he was biting on my arm, you know, and I don't really know if I was like I wasn't really like vocalizing myself, much screaming or whatever. I was just trying to cover myself up. And then he did, for some reason, it was like hesitated. Like he must have just like seen my thigh was like out in the wide open. Because it was like he wasn't saying nothing. All of a sudden, boom, he comes right down. He bites right in my right upper thigh, like right in the center of it. And, I'm guessing, because this bear, when he come over by me before I kind of lost track where he was at, I would say he was probably as high as my shoulders on all four legs.
Yep.
I'm guessing like close to 5 feet. And I would say he was like a 1,000-pound bear. And so anyways, he bites into my thigh, and then with all that pressure, just, getting to justify the size of the bear with the pressure of his bite, I guess like an alligator is like 2,000 pounds. So these things are probably about the same,
Yeah.
And the teeth on them are probably the big ones. So like that, they're like the canines are like 2.5 inches, and they're kind of rounded. And all the other teeth, and you're just sinking the teeth as far as they can sink into my thigh and just crush. So this is kind of getting really intense here. So anyways, the pain was like. I described it to people a lot of different times. It'd be like if you made like a fake bear set of teeth out of steel plates, and you put it on your thigh and drive the motor part of the pickup truck over your leg and have all that pressure crush your leg. That was like the pain in it. Yeah. So I'm like yowling, and then he doesn't like that. So then he like bites on my arm, and he freaking drags me like 40, 50 feet to the woods. And there was like a dead log, and I kind of went over and I ripped off like skin on my knuckles and like ripped off part of one of my fingernails. And so then I'm like, oh, I'm done now. I was like, I'm thinking to myself. And so the gun's way over there or something. I don't even know where it's at. So I'm kind of like, I remember like I could see the sky. It was a gray kind of overcast day anyways. And then like the tops of the trees, and like there were some trees without any leaves on them. And I would see that kind of stuff kind of flashing around really quick. And he gets me over in this one spot, and he was just like thrashing me around like a rag doll. And the weight of me didn't mean nothing. And I was getting thrown around. And every time I kind of got flopped around where I had like a half a socket, I would like kind of flop myself down so like my chest was like protected, like facing down, and that would cover my head again.
Yep.
And he was like growling around and like biting on me and stuff like this. And it seemed like he was getting more mad. Like, how come you're not leaving? I'm biting you. Get the hell out of my area kind of thing.
Do you think he was just trying to neutralize you in order to get the food? Do you think that, or do you think he was trying to kill you and eat you?
I think it had nothing, 0% to do with that fish. I think he was, it would be just like if he had like a mean dog tied up behind some guy's trailer or house, and the dog was like really protective, and you walk around that corner of the house and startle that dog.
Yep.
He's gonna like just out of instinct like bite you.
Okay.
I think there was like a protective, like instinctive, territorial kind of thing that bears do with other bears, and because he wasn't like trying to kill me to like eat me. It was like aggression kind of attack, just like I said.
Okay.
So anyways, I'm getting flopped around there, and he's biting on me, and at one point my butt, I had like regular like Levi jeans on underneath my chest waders, but they weren't the neoprene waders. They were probably like I forgot what they were, but they're kind of like the breathable waders.
Yep.
And so he bites through all that in my butt. He bit me a couple. I think I had like 4. Like 2 times he actually picked me right up my whole body by my butt. So it was one of just to rip all the flesh and everything away. So he did that, and then he was like the vocalization of these things. The lungs are so big. I mean, it's a big animal. You hear I'm probably like 230, 240 pound guy, 5'11", and then you got like this 1,000-pound brown bear. It's a bigger animal, has bigger lungs.
Yep.
And then being mean, the vocalization of that growling and aggressiveness coming out of its mouth, it goes right through your whole body. It's like so intense. So he, it seems like he's getting. I could tell by the voice, his tone of his growling and everything. He was getting more agitated. It was like getting more intense. It was like, but then he started like go onto my head more. And then I think he was kind of more on my right hand side. And then biting on I could feel, I could hear the crunching and the scraping of his teeth on my skull. And I could hear it popping. And there was one time where I thought he actually like broke my skull, and there was like my brains were hanging out. It was like that's how hard or how painful it was. I mean, you could edit part of this out, but it'd be if they had like some sort of tool or something. Their teeth are not like knives. It's like a dull round thing, and then because I have it had like a big flap on my scalp.
Okay.
Were ripped, like several inches up. I think what it did was he was to the right of me, and he's upright. His top teeth would be over further towards my eyes on top of my head, and the bottom teeth were in the bottom part of my skull. So the bottom teeth ripped between the distance between the two teeth, it ripped it out there and made like the two bottom teeth come up and made like a strip. So that was like the main part that was like flopping or whatever from the hair.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, and then he ripped a good artery in there. We'll get to that point when I get to the hospital. But so that was like the pain with that. I don't know if that was worse than the leg one, but yeah, people don't know what pain is when it's just ripping, because your scalp is probably like a half inch thick, and then his teeth are scraping my skull. And I was like screaming and stuff and yelling for help, and I even it was like I was like yelling for God and like Jesus and everything, and then it was like it was like, it's like, this is it. Like you like, what do you got? What are you going to do? Where are you going here? Like, this is the end. You gotta, you're on your last little bit or whatever. And, anything that will work.
Yeah.
And anything to help. And then I don't have like another sidearm, a guy actually needs, forget like, oh, don't shoot bears and you just use bear spray. You get into a situation, you actually need, because no matter what I had, I could have the bazooka in my hands. That went flying. That's gone. I got dragged over here. So now you need even some of these giant bears. I don't think a 44 Magnum's big enough. Even a 50 caliber on these ones. I've seen some of these mounts on them.
Yeah.
And the heads on them are humongous. So you would need one, even then you would need the ankle one too. You need a couple sidearms strap team. So anyways, he's like tearing away and he's biting it on me, and hearing my head cracking and popping, and then he's right there. I mean, it's just his head's touching my head, and I could hear him starting like gurgling. And I don't know if it was from my shot that I made or if it was the blood of my scalp and the artery going up into his airway.
Okay.
What he was doing, because I've deer hunted before and been up on deer and stuff pretty quick, and then I've heard that where the lungs start to fill up with blood.
Yep.
And I kind of know what I was hearing. And that's what it sounded like he was doing. He was having some hard time breathing, like in a gurgling kind of thing in his breathing. And it was weird as heck. And he started squealing, and he ran out of there as fast as he came, if not faster. And he went to the right, basically where my truck was. He went that way, and he was gone. And like, wow. And then like, it was like a 3-minute deal from the beginning when I first seen him to right now. And I couldn't believe it. I tried my eyes, everything was crunched right down. I had my eyes so I never in my whole life squeezed my eyes so tight, and then I didn't even know how to open them, and then I could figure out, okay, I'm still alive, I guess.
Yep.
And I opened my eyes up, and okay, I can see. I can't believe I can actually see, for one, and I could feel crap hanging off my head, and my whole head was saturated with blood, and that flap of my skin and my head. So anyways, okay, and then the 5 thing, he must have got the muscles pretty good. I was like, okay, I think the gun is over here. And I was kind of disoriented a little bit. I says, okay, I think this is towards where the trail is. And I did kind of go that way, and I did find the trail. And then I looked around and didn't find my hat, and I didn't see, well, the fish was there because that was pretty bright colored. And I seen the fishing pole, had a nice fly rod. I grabbed the gun, and I pumped it. I don't know if I pumped it before or not, but I just pumped it again, made sure I had another round in there, and I grabbed the fly rod, and I had a hard time walking with my right leg. My thigh was bothering me. I was limping pretty good. I figured I even used the freaking fishing pole to help me go, or the gun. But I just walked and just fought off the pain and got back to the truck, and it was just about dark. And my truck, I bought the 97 GMC. It was a short box, emerald green, stick shift standard with a Vortec V6 motor. And I had almost 400,000 miles on it. I was like looking for my keys. I found my keys. I was like, oh man, just start one more time.
Yep.
So I threw my crap in the truck, and I think I might have pumped out the rest of the bullets because I'm a safety guy, and threw all that crap in a fishing pole. And I had a bunch of gear in there anyway, some old shirts and things. And like, okay, the truck started. And it was just time of night where you needed headlights. So I backed up, drove all the way out to that road. I looked over, and it was still kind of, not pitch black, but the guy wasn't down there where he was fishing earlier. So I turned left to go towards town. I had a cell phone with me. I don't even think they're really like smartphones then, but whatever cell phone I had worked. And then, so I got up to like the road where I would turn to go left to my place. And I usually get cell service there, and I was trying to call 911, couldn't get no cell service. So I just kept on going, and then finally there was the fire hall. The fire company had their old building on the right-hand side, and they built a brand new facility on the left, and they were using both buildings. And just got almost into town, and finally got a woman operator and told her I got mauled by a bear. So, just before then, I did see like a few miles up, there was a guy pulling out of the driveway with a pickup truck. I did stop, and the guy obviously, as I pulled up, and I'm like right in his headlights, and he could see me in my side window and my door of my truck. So he knew something was up because my whole head looked like he dumped a 5-gallon bucket of blood over it.
Yep.
So I come over to the guy and I'm like, hey man, I just got attacked by a bear. I don't know if I can make it to the place. Could you at least follow me? And he's like, okay, yeah. So then I go in and I get the phone call. It comes in and it says, okay, we'll have the people meet you there. So I pull in the parking lot. It's a blacktop parking lot with like yellow lines for your vehicles. I pull up to the grass perk. I right between the lines, shut my truck off. I got out. I got the chest waders on. And these guys come out, these firemen, and they're asking me, what's going on? And blah, blah. We just got this call. And I said, yeah, man, I got this. And then kind of went into the fireplace, and then they kind of got me back out so I wouldn't get blood everywhere. And finally, like, okay, let's get going, man. So we're driving. There's 3 guys. There's one guy in the back with me. I was like on the stretcher or whatever. And man, I was like, I'm so thirsty. And like, I went through, it's just like, I don't know, it's going to be way worse than running a marathon. And then, because I think I lost like pretty much half of my blood as it was. And I was dehydrated and just went through the whole ordeal. I was like thirsty, and nobody would give me anything to drink. So then they'd like give me some IVs and different things, a couple syringes of stuff. I was going on adrenaline. My adrenaline was, I was probably, I was hyped up then because I was like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. I was kind of, like if I had like freaking a whole pot of coffee and way worse than that. But, so I'm like talking about this and this, and we're going to the thing. And it was, it's like 26, 27 miles, I think. Like where I was to like get to Kenai, I think it was like 20 miles to like the first stoplight, and then you went a few more stoplights, and there's like a Walmart stop, and there's that section in between the 2 towns. So we got over there. So it was probably, I don't know, 15-minute drive or something like that. And got in the hospital, and I think at the time, it was at that time of year, the 21st of September, I had like a dart. I don't know, that was between like 7, 8 o'clock or something like that. I remember I was like kind of going into surgery like around like 9:30 p.m. or something. But I got in the room, and then there was, I was all covered with everything. And then there was a couple of male nurses that had to come in before they had any surgery. Everything quit bleeding. There was no more blood coming out of me. But it stung. That stinging pain was like everywhere. And then I don't remember if anybody did anything for pain. And I don't think they wanted to try anything until I had a surgery or they want to change the chemistry of my body. They want to mess with that. And then they were like, well, you did lose about half of your blood, but we're not going to give you a blood transfusion. We'll just give you an IV and put more fluid back into you. But then there was a couple of male nurses, and they kind of cleaned me up and stuff, and the best they could, and they got me over in the emergency room, and the doctor came over, and the guy said, I'm this Dutch surgeon. I says, I'm the only one here. Do you accept me for your surgeon? And I said, sure. You're the only guy. So at that time, because the 911 call, and then there was a bear shooting and the mauling and all that kind of stuff, and the state police were there. There was two officers. There was a younger guy, and it just started out in his 20s. I think he might have been 18 or 18, 20, and then another guy probably 30s or 40s at the time. And the guy was up against the wall standing there, and then the surgeon was talking. I told him, I says, everything was legitimate. I was like protecting my wife by shooting at this bear that was trying to kill me. And telling him a little bit of the story, and he's like, this is fine, blah, blah, blah. And the surgeon guy picked up the flap of my head, and there was like the artery, and the blood was like, it started pumping with my heartbeat. And the guy was like 10 feet away, and almost it was hitting the wall like 10 feet away. And yeah, and then like, okay, and they said, well, I'm gonna take care of this one first. And then he didn't want to just try to connect. He says, I'll just I'll flap it over and sew it up. It will like naturally heal itself. And I don't know if it was the best way to do it, whatever, but I agreed to it. And because it was still like oozing out stuff like in February. This is like middle of September.
Okay.
You know, it had stitches.
Did they did they put you under then, or? No,
I was awake the whole time. But that anesthesia, well, it's not really anesthesia, but the numbing compound that they have in the syringe.
Like a nerve block or something.
He would do like one limb at a time.
Okay.
I remember at one point I counted like 40 major punctures and rips, and that's not counting like hundreds of little scrapes and stuff.
Yep.
He would like do one arm or whatever, and then there was so much of that stuff in me. Then they would wait like half an hour, 40 minutes, and then do another one. And it was like, you know, if you read any of the things on it, it says 3 hours of surgery, but I was in there for like 12 hours. Because it was like 9:30 in the morning by the time I got to like the recovery room.
Yep. And
then I spent like 3 days in there.
And I suppose they're really worried about infection because bears, you know, they're eating carrion, you know, other dead animals, and
oh yeah,
and their mouths are just nasty.
Yeah, that's what he had said. They gave me these antibiotics of some sort that he had claimed they were the most potent, the best for that situation. He says even if you have some debris still in there, it will like zero it out for me. It will just like your body will like heal over or whatever. It will get rid of everything that's gonna be any kind of infection. Because you know you can flush out the best you can. You know you don't know, because some of the things are down in 3 inches into your flesh. You know you don't know if there's a grain of a tiny little fragment of a leaf or something that's down in there. You know what I mean? So they cleaned them up pretty good, and then you know sewed me up, and then got the recovery room, and I spent 3 days there.
So what did the game wardens come and then talk to you about?
There was no game wardens, no.
There was no game wardens. Did they go back after this bear, or was the bear wounded, or what?
They went back the next day or whatever. I forgot. And I must have talked to that guy. I know I talked to that guy a few different times. Even like a few years later, I called that guy. He gave me his card and I talked to him. But right at the exact time they didn't find the bear or anything, I guess they couldn't even find like my hat and sunglasses. And then fish, anything like took that, the fox or something.
Yeah.
But that was only 3 things was there: the hat and sunglasses and the fish. And then I was kind of dragged away, so like away from the trail. Even when the bear hit me, it was, I think I kind of backed away from the trail too. I was trying to look for a place to kind of hide or climb a tree or something.
Okay.
So I think I kind of came back like 30 feet away from the trail, to the right. And then, so I was like in that vicinity. And then I got thrown back further and then dragged off. So like when they went in there, they were probably like 50 yards and they could never found, unless I took them back, and I didn't know exactly where that was either. I know I was probably like 3/4 away, if not 80% back to my truck in the parking area when I was almost back, and then I seen him.
So when you shot the bear, were you using slugs in your shotgun?
Yeah.
Do you think you wounded him at all, or just pissed him off, or?
I don't know. You hear different things with they're slanted and they.
Yeah, I've heard about. Yeah, that's what I've heard about on the big bears. That sometimes they can glance off.
Right. I had a 3.5-inch super magnum too, but that wasn't enough for that big ass brown bear.
So how long did it take for you to recover from your injuries?
Like immediately, I don't know. Like I said, it was probably like February. I still had like on my scalp part, there was like stitches and stuff that I had stuff was like oozing out. But it's like it was probably good because it wasn't like in my scalp area. It was good to kind of let it drain, I guess, probably.
Okay.
The other things, I don't know. If it was, I don't think it was as late as 6 months, but it might have been a few months when I got the other stitches out. Well, they kind of like, nothing was like bulged out where it looked infected, and it looked like the skin healed over. And it says, okay, I guess it's never get the stitches pulled out. So that was at least probably a couple months after that.
How bad was your thigh?
The thigh was, I don't think there was like too much muscle damage. I guess it probably bothered me a little bit longer. There was like some of my family and friends had like a benefit for me.
Okay.
In like middle of November or something. And I think I know, obviously you could see all the bites on, and then, there might have been, the main one was on my head. Well, they kind of like, I don't know if I put this in this part of this, when I was first in the hospital, they like shaved, they do the surgery, they're going to shave your head. And then they had like a shaver, and then it kind of broke like halfway through. So it looked like Frankenstein monster with like half the hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So part of my hair, because I might have trimmed some of it, but like, would it be like 2 months of my hair growing back? It doesn't grow back a real lot, so you're gonna see, I'm like showing people.
Yeah, like patches on your head.
I would have said like someday maybe I'll just shave my head completely, and then I could. I get a pretty good sized dent. Every once in a while, I'll get someone say, "Hey, look at this big dent in my head," and you can feel the big groove.
Yeah.
Kind of like just above my ear. But I have like I call like this my crucifix one on my right hand. I have, when I flex my hand up, you can see the big dent right dead center, and he bit me completely through that palm.
Wow.
And it might have been both teeth. I'm not really sure. And then I have on my left arm, I have the top canines are 4.5 inches across. I have a friend in Kansas that got a 900-pound Kodiak that was like a 9.5, 10-foot bear, like a 900-pounder, and his top teeth on that bear was only like 2.5 inches. It's like nowhere near as big as.
Wow.
Like yeah. And I had on my shoulder, they kind of disappeared, especially when I get suntans and stuff. And they actually do measure like 5 inches.
Okay.
And then you ain't gonna get any bigger than the top canines, because on the bear, the top bite is over, just like a German Shepherd. The top bite is over the bottom teeth.
Yep.
So then I got some claw marks on the back, and I show them once in a while. There's nothing really more than like an inch as far as like a rip. But my scalp ones, I still probably have a couple 2.5-inch dent there. And I can feel different holes. I feel around my top of my head. I got some different holes that are distinct. And then there was like one on my forehead, like on the right side, that was actually in my hairline. Then my hair receded a little bit since then, so it's now just out of there. And that's got kind of a dent. And then the 4 big ones on my thigh, and then on my butt, there's one that's just like that at your belt line. Looks like I got shot with like a 50 caliber muzzleloader. I have that like round like hole right there.
Okay.
And there's a couple other smaller little rips. But yeah, just some visual marks, they're there.
Have you had any long-lasting physical problems from this bear attack?
Not really physical, no. But yeah, it traumatizes.
Have you gone back to the spot where it happened? Have you been back there fishing?
I didn't go that far back. I went up a ways or whatever. I think the next year or whatever. I didn't go all the way back where I figured. I got to I went to the parking lot, walked over the stream, checked it out, and went up the trail a little ways. And I said, I don't need to go right to the next spot or where I think it is.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
I mean, did it change as far as how you fished out there? Is there anything you did differently?
I never went back and fished over there ever again.
I mean, did you fish other streams and run into bears? And
yeah,
did that bother you? Or
that was 2010, and I went for like 2012 was like my last year, and then I had my place there, and then I think like a year later, like around 2013, I think I sold it.
Okay.
But I still love Alaska, and I want to, go back and this and that and do things, and I did. I was out around. We went fishing a lot of places where there were bears in their areas. I did end up buying like a huge like elephant gun. After that, I bought like this 375 Ultra Magnum.
Okay.
I ended up going with a 270 grain bullet at Remington. So I've actually shot some black bears with it and some whitetails with it, and I like that gun. It's and then I was a resident there for a while, and I did order it was a 6-shooter 50 caliber handgun, but it was like back ordered. It was like I think it was like
Smith & Wesson 500 or
what's that?
The Smith & Wesson 500.
I don't know what it was. I kind of forgot now. It was I think it was a different brand than that.
Okay.
It might have been. It was a nice stainless steel one with like a satin finish. But I never did get that gun. It was too long the waiting period. But anyways, then when I did go around, I had a 40. When I worked and stuff, I had like a 44 Magnum.
Okay.
Different places and shit like that, but. I did go some remote places after that, and worked and spent the night in some like remote cabins and had some weird things kind of happen and seen some things and heard some things. There's a lot of like paranormal and weird shit in Alaska, I tell you, man.
Yeah, I've heard some stories. So I guess, is there anything looking back and that day? And traumatic events that happened. Is there anything looking back on that like you wish you would have done differently, or do you think you could have prepared yourself anyway, or just something freak out of the blue thing that just happened and there was nothing you could do?
Well, I kind of get, I wouldn't say arguments with people, but it kind of pisses me off because they think, oh, you should do this or do that. You wouldn't have got chewed on. Well, guess what? If anybody's an expert, I'm the expert because I went through that situation. Yep. So, like, and just like with people, like, if you jump to the 6 inches to the right by a tree or something, it might change the whole situation. Like, everything's a variable.
Yep.
So, I think I did everything I could possibly do to the outcome that I got.
Like I read that stat that there's 40 people in the world that are attacked by a bear every year. I think I don't know how many billions are on our planet. 5 billion, 6 billion. I don't know how many billion there are.
Well, I think there's more, almost like 8 now.
Yeah. But think about that. It's 40. So you're in a very small company. I mean, you got a better chance of winning the lottery and getting struck by lightning on the same day, I think, than getting attacked by a bear. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Bill. I'm glad everything worked out for you in the end. And you hear some of these horrible bear stories that don't work out very well. And I'm glad you're still around to enjoy life and maybe appreciate life a little bit more. And there's a lot of people out there that don't appreciate what we have. And
right. I appreciate like every little thing of life now more, because it's like you kind of look at things a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Bill. If you like what you heard today, click the subscribe button to hear more upcoming stories. If you or someone you know have a survival story you'd like to share, contact me at isurvivethewild@gmail.com.